Day 2 of the Boston Major does continue, and it has not been short of surprises. LGD have just locked themselves in for the top spot of their group, and now it's a battle for the middle. It is Evil Geniuses that have forgone that spot, and that was, of course, due to a shortcoming versus their domestic rivals Complexity. The panel has shifted, and we have got new faces joining us. It's both Shiva and Cap, still fogged, sandwiched in between that. I mean, there are worse sandwiches to be in between. I mean, this is pretty good.
That's true.
No complaints here.
No
Yeah,
complaints. Right. Cap, how you doing, dude? You got to cast LGD taking their top seed. Feeling good?
Yeah. I was actually really excited that LGD got their opportunity to be here at the Boston Major. I was rather disappointed when they weren't able to qualify. So when I saw that they were going to be able to be here, I was like, all right, that's my second place in group. And they surpassed that very clearly.
And I'm glad you said that, second place. That's because you had faith in Evil Geniuses. They're the first team we're going to be looking at. And Cap, if you can summarize, if someone has just tuned into the Boston Major and wondering why we're not talking about Evil Geniuses taking top seed, please tell that story.
Well, I think Evil Geniuses, in many ways, they have experienced Complexity time and time again, and I think they've beat them in almost every single tournament setting. There's only one series before this, right?
Only Epicenter.
Yeah, only Epicenter. Yeah. And believe me, Swindles was real happy about that one. But Evil Geniuses have time and time again beat Complexity. And I think in some ways they just naturally went into it and were like, oh, we're just going to stomp these guys 2-0. But thing is about Complexity is that Swindles has something about him. He rallies his team together. Yeah, people hate it. People love to hate it. People love him for it. But he rallies people together. He makes results happen. And that's what he did versus Evil Geniuses. I think hubris is a word that somebody used about LGD. Yeah. In their qualifier. I think you can definitely point to a little bit of hubris there in that series.
Okay, giving that to EG. But what about, I mean, Shiva, we have to talk a little bit about FACELESS and their journey.
Well, it has been a really rough journey for them. So they came from this massive win streak, Southeast Asia. Oh my God, we're the absolute best. Came out of Southeast Asia to the summit last. Didn't do well, but it was their first tournament. So, you know, they have a lot to learn, a lot of experience to gain from being at a tournament, from being in a LAN setting. And maybe it was a one-time thing, but then they came here and it's just not clicking. And I think the first game that they had against LGD, it looked like it was good, but at the same time it felt like they hadn't really found their own style. It was a bit of a combination between different styles. You had the Virtus Pro Lil Weaver support. You had the Medusa mid, which they do play a bit more, but normally I like to see Jabs on a bit more of a playmaker mid, and it felt like they just weren't in the groove yet. But these group stages, I think, are extremely vital for them, and this is a time for them to learn and grow.
Yeah. Right? You agree, Sir Fog? Have you got? I don't want to say high hopes, but do you believe in FACELESS in actually doing damage in this major?
I think this next matchup especially is going to be very hard for them.
Okay.
I think EG, especially after losing versus Complexity, they've got like a fire lit under their ass, to say the least. They want to come back. Looking at them too on the stream, just there for a bit on the cameras, they're much more jolly. You can see how devastated they were after losing Nicole. I think they're going to come out really strong into this, and it's going to be really hard for FACELESS.
And there's really dangerous results here, right? If you lose this, you could place fourth, and you already know some of the first-place teams. You don't want to be in that situation. You want to get at least third, get that weird middle ground where, maybe some upsets happen. You're happy with the second-place team you're facing up against. So this is a very dangerous place for both of these teams to be in.
Just think of the other first-place teams right now. That's the scary part. If you're DC or Virtus Pro, it's like, oh my God, I do not want to face EG in the first round.
Oh, yeah. They're cheering EG all the way. They're like, come on, boys in blue, just this once. Do it for me.
Yeah, there's a really weird turn of events. Suddenly they find themselves cheering for Evil Geniuses. And if you are at home as well, do be sure to let us know on social media. But let's have a look at our featured matchup. We are venturing, I believe, to the off lane to talk about this one. It is going to be Universe Ice Ice Ice. Now, what makes that yes come out of your mouth, Cap?
I think this is one of the best off-lane comparisons to ever make, because I feel like both of these players are extremely successful in the off-lane position. I think they're absolutely stars within their role, and they both have they share certain similarities in that they are both able to utilize the off-lane in certain moments of aggression to get surprise results that people don't expect. But you also have, going into the mid-game, Ice Ice Ice, I think, is much better at being able to play off-map and play aggressive and set up ganks. And, I think of his Slardar, and I watch a game of him, and he's like Houdini, where he just pops out of he pops out of the fog constantly to the enemy team's surprise all over the map. Meanwhile, Universe is a little bit more conservative in his playstyle. He is also off map, but he plays a much more economical game where he's playing much more of a little bit more farmy style. Still setting up ganks, still especially Faceless Void, I think is a great example for him because his ganks come very timed with Chronosphere every other time he's farming off map.
Now, this is going to be fun because it does come down to predictions, where I have a feeling for the first time ever, have we ever had a desk that all predict one way? I'm not sure we have,
I think
Sheev.
we did once, and then you wanted
Oh,
to
I
just...
messed it up.
When Newbie went
The
versus
Pander vote.
NP, you went for like, oh, nobody else is going for it, I'll just do
Yeah,
it.
just a sympathy
So,
one. Like to chuck it in. But it is, of course, time for that, and we'll start with you and work our way back down.
I think Evil Geniuses is
Maybe.
having the better shot here.
Okay.
I think they're the team to take it.
Give me just a little bit of devil's advocate here. I know this. Sometimes I feel like when we do predictions, Fogged, it's just going to be when there is a real underdog. It's easy to just get blinded and just go, okay, EG, obviously. But I mean, it's not like Faceless don't belong here. They're at this major for a reason.
I'm still going to go with EG.
Yes, of
I
course.
will
Yeah,
say
yeah,
2-0 for them. But I think the one factor that could happen is, like you're mentioning, Ice. That's like the big one that comes out to me. If he has a stellar performance, that's their key to success for them. So it's all on ice, basically. Good luck.
No
Good luck,
pressure.
Daryl.
All
No pressure.
eyes on ice. And I'm assuming we're going all the way. With you,
Yes, we absolutely are. Evil Geniuses here. I would struggle to find any analyst that I would to actually take Faceless in this situation. Evil Geniuses are a lower bracket team, and this is the lower bracket of their group.
Yeah.
So this is used to be the time where they kind of turn things up.
Okay, so that one slip up is done now. They've done that versus Complexity now. EG are here to play. Of course, one of the hot favourites by a lot of analyst standards to do damage here at the Boston Major. And I
now
guess,
you're going to ruin it.
No, you know what? You guys have sold me. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and not ruin it. There's going to be a full EG roster for us here on the desk. And we will continue to explain why as we do venture ever closer to the draft phase. They look like they're raring to go. Perhaps not everyone. I'll tell you just with a little yawn there. I've seen some really weird postures. Some of these player cams, I've seen some very strange playing positions.
Sai sleeping.
Yeah, Zai's down for the count.
Heads down.
No, he's getting into his zone, guys.
I think
Zen.
Music on.
I think it's important for viewers whenever they see like EG, they're like, oh, this is like a 90 to 10 situation, right? But it's not. I think like my percentage, I would say 65 to EG.
I was going to say like 70-30.
Yeah.
70-30.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I don't think like people should not expect that this would be a huge, massive upset. It's just that we are all going to lead to a decent margin towards Evil Geniuses.
Well, when you look at what their achievements and what their players are even away from the organization have achieved. But Fogged, I do want you to give me the win conditions. What do EG do in order to find this win? What goes right for them?
Able to just get like a good draft, a good cohesive draft. Have Sumail on a hero that can pressure a bit, or on an Alchemist, because that's just an Alchemist. It's very silly, but just having some unison in their draft. Like they seem to be a bit cocky, especially versus Complexity. I think the main thing for them is just to keep their heads level, not let themselves get over themselves, and just be like, okay, we're playing Faceless. We feel like we're the better team, but don't get ahead of ourselves. Like take it step by step. I think that's like the more important things.
Have a really good balance between the greed they can do and the greed they actually go for. I think that was something that in the Complexity series they might have gone a little bit too greedy on one side, and they couldn't really close it out then because, well, Complexity was all over them, and the other way around, not greedy enough, just thinking, we have one life stealer. I'm sure that one core will do the job.
Yes, I do like that Sumail's name popped up. We haven't actually spoke too much about him, but I mean, such an exciting talent at this point in time. People have used the word peak. Where is he at on the scale now of Sumail and his peaking? You know where I'm hinting here, Cap?
I think he is, at least from talking to him, I think he's still very ambitious. He's not going to be a TI winner that drops off in skill, but is he still the leader in mids? I think he's maintained a top 3 position for the last year and a half, and I don't see that going away.
And the other two in that?
No
one and
maybe.
No one and maybe, yeah.
That's
I would
makes
say.
sense. Everyone's on par. Okay,
I think most people would agree with
we'll
that.
So we're giving Sumail the third position here. He has got some legwork to do. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, but at the same time, he can it depends on the hero.
Yeah,
if you give him a hero that he can actually shine on, he will shine. But for example, Alchemist, which we have seen him play quite a bit, it's maybe, everybody expects him to farm, and he will farm. It's an Alchemist thing. Although he did have, I think he had over 1k GPM at some point in the game earlier today against Complexity, which was insane.
1152.
1100.
That is extremely high.
I think the difference between various mid laners and where it's top 3 and top 10 is just cleaning up their play a little bit. They all can accomplish a lot when they're hot. It's just when they are down, when they're down and out, when their lane suppressed, what can they actually accomplish from there? And I think Sumail is a player who's always able to claw himself back into the game. Whether you set yourself as that third position or the first, the best mid in the world, is really just being able to provide consistent performance, not necessarily the peak of your power in one game.
At the same time, Jabs, I mean, the mid player that, of course, Sumail will go up against, has had an amazing time in Southeast Asia making those plays. And not until 5 months ago. 5 months ago, he was a support. Yep. He just made that transition and somehow made it work for him. And he has been doing amazingly well if the scenario is proper for him.
Sure.
He has been a little bit shaky maybe this tournament, but it's also a little bit of an inexperience coming up from him, I think.
Something intriguing has happened here, Fogged. The EG bans are two of the discussions we had about, often highly contested but not often banned. Magi is taken and Batrider in quick succession by EG.
No, we said the Batriders are
Both
banned,
of
right?
them?
Yeah, no, the Ogre, we
Ogre
said
seems
it's
to be given a lot.
Yeah, he seems to be given more so than that, but...
Yeah. The Batrider is just, the problem with Batrider is that offlaners are in a very hard position right now. There are very few offlaners that can make consistently strong performances, and Batrider is very clearly the front runner, I think, in that regard. So he's always going to be heavily contested, if not banned.
I'm really happy with this Faceless opener. EG will go for the same thing that they did versus Complexity in their previous 2 games, or in the first 2 games that they played. Faceless go for something that this is their most comfortable thing. The Nyx Assassin, I think a majority of teams were pretty much banning out the Nyx because Ice was having such a great impact. And like you mentioned, playing off the map, this is one that he just was super space making. Warlock is one of their most successful heroes as well. It fits really well versus the Wisp too. So I'm really liking this opener by Faceless.
It's already setting up. I think there are 2 prongs to Team Faceless and what their pros are as a team. I think one is that they are a very formidable high ground defending team, and they are also very strong at being able to establish laning presence, right? So I think that Warlock is probably one of the best supports to be able to establish early pressure in the laning phase, and I think that they still have some pretty good high ground as well. And as Fogg pointed out, I think Ice has an opportunity here to be able to really shine as Nyx Assassin.
Instant reaction though with the Lifestealer, which Lifestealer is pretty decent versus both of these. Sure, maybe Warlock is kind of like a trade, like kind of like back and forth with that one. But Lifestealer versus Nyx, that's kind of like pretty clear. Lifestealer comes out pretty high in advantage versus that hero in all stages.
Yeah, it's very important for Ice to be able to get information to his team, not just about being able to find when the Lifestealer is going to be infest ganking, and when he's going to be off map. He's clearly not jungling because I'm inside his jungle. He's inside a hero right now. They're looking for that gank, and also scouting out the Wisp, being able to find that saving hero and be able to take him out of the equation before the team fight actually starts out. So I think there are multiple things that Ice needs to be able to do as this Nyx Assassin.
So more pressure on him. We've already kind of given him like win condition. Ice goes off, and now it's like Nyx Assassin. He's got a big checklist to do. So all eyes on him.
So Axe and Slard are both removed. That feels like okay. They do not want to get those beefy initiators coming out from EG. But is there any other left that they would go for that would do the same job?
I mean, when it comes to initiators, right, you're usually just looking for a vehicle for a Lifestealer from the offlane. So there is going to be like Sand Kings still out there if they feel like it's a good Clockwork game, which we won't know probably until the 3rd or 4th pick. They could go for that. But I think Slardar is easily the best vehicle for Lifestealer. And Axe, I think, is in generally just a strong initiator as well to have.
Yeah, EG's really they've been liking the Axe a lot more and more, especially with Crit being brought into their roster. They just pick it a lot for Universe, more so than ever.
Well, there's Undying. That is one of their highest win rate heroes. I think 93% or something stupid.
A little bit skewed, of course, because of like SEA
against
stuff.
Southeast Asian teams, fair enough. But it is, I mean, what you said earlier, it's their comfort
It's their
zone.
comfort, yeah.
And I think that is the most important thing for them this game. Even if they don't win, just play their own style and then improve upon that rather than trying to copy other people's styles. So this is, I really like it. I think it's a good a step in a good direction.
I think that one of the strengths of the reason we talk about Ice is not just him, but also very often his aggression is going to be coupled with XY. I think they make a fantastic offlane support duo because XY is, I think, one of the better supports to be able to suffocate the lanes. And heroes like Undying are very good at that, particularly against what we're supposed to be seeing here is some sort of dual lane situation with a Wisp, right? Undying is particularly strong against those duos within lane because of the way Decay works, right? Just a nice AoE AoE that saps away the strength of those heroes, it just makes it so they really don't feel comfortable fighting into you and trading regen, which is typically the way you work.
Worked for Complexity too before versus the Wisp Lifestealer that EG did too, so that's a little bit of a nice addition to make them want to pick that. But like you mentioned, not really too many offlaners left in the pool. Sanking must be the most obvious one. Pairs well with the Wisp too, pairs well with the Lifestealer. Great versus Faceless's lineup.
But they didn't want to go for Darkseer. What about that Darkseer? Wouldn't that
Give him some love.
Universe Darkseer is amazing. We've seen some amazing combinations coming out from him as well.
But the problem is that if you run Darkseer, then you'll probably need to make sure you pick up your mid pretty early because, again, you still want a vehicle, and Darkseer is not a very suitable vehicle, so you'd have to pick up like the early Storm Spirit at 4th position, and then you're susceptible to letting Sumail's hero get countered.
I think that's another reason why. There's black on that team. That's an anti-mage player. You don't really want to. It's not the you don't want to play. It's not like you're completely deterred from picking Darkseer versus anti-mage, but it definitely makes it a little bit harder to play in that essence.
I think Team Faceless absolutely picked this, anticipating because Evil Geniuses have the last pick in the second phase, right? They could grab the Storm Spirit, ban away the Anti-Mage as a 5th ban, and feel more comfortable with their combination, right? And Team Faceless, I think, in some cases are anticipating that and saying, this is a potential opening. Let's grab the Anti-Mage now, who we know is already a fine hero versus Lifestealer, right? He's not a hero that's particularly threatened high mode of mobility, will be able to outfarm the Lifestealer in most cases. So it's already a good carry, and it also makes sure that Storm Spirit is not a 4th pick for EG.
Now, which hero is then left open for jobs? Because we got OD and TA still in the pool. A few of his heroes that, are very successful, but they are going to be the ones that have to pick up their mid before EG reveals theirs, so they don't have a lot of extra information to go upon. Which one do you prefer?
Looking at you, Fogged.
Which two did you say? You said the
OD and TA.
OD and TA?
He plays Naga a bit as well, but of course got banned. Marana is another one that that he likes to play anyway.
What about Tinker?
That is a him.
I think that's an EG ban here, just because you don't want to go against a hero because you've got the first 3 are very heavy team fight. And then the 4th pick is the carry to beat you out, most likely. And if they manage to get a hero that stalls out the game heavily and prevents you, they operate on that high ground defense that we were talking about earlier, then Team Faces would, I think, have multiple parts to victory, right? Early aggression, stall out the game, late game Anti-Mage. And that combination would be pressure for EG to try and finish up the game.
To answer Shivers, though, just since you said like the ODTA, I would say personally here I'd like the TA better because it gives them the Roshan access control. It gives them a little bit more tempo. Okay, but EG takes it from them before I even get to finish saying it. So
Okay, goodbye TA.
Bit of a counter pick. But yeah, Tinker is also a great hero for jabs, by the way. So I really like that option as well. I just wonder if it's not too slow. I think that is going to be the main thing for Faceless in this game. They have to hit... they have to buy time for that anti-mage, and if they can't, then EG is just going to run over them. So it has to be a hero that can create a lot of mayhem in the mid game, together with, as you already mentioned, Ice.
Fog, you need a controlling hero, right, for EG? Unless you get like a 4 position that pushes, I think you need more disables because you've got heavy physical damage out of Lifestealer and TA, but the one disable that they have, Open Wounds, is not effective versus Anti-Mage. So they're entirely reliant on Burrow Strike and quick physical damage. And they need more disables, right? I
would think so, yeah. Like the Earth Spirit kind of comes to mind, even though they don't have like a Darkseer to pair up with it in that manner. But Crit is probably one of the more confident Spirit players, and it's pretty good into them.
Disruptor?
Disruptor could, but that doesn't really shine as like an EG, right?
Yeah.
It's not like an EG.
You're not getting EG vibes from Disruptor. Okay.
I like Disruptor though. He is.
They could pressure. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
What about?
Oh, Disruptor is the one that got banned.
Okay, they banned it anyway, so all right.
Is there a 4 position that they can go more pushing power? So I'm thinking like, can they run a 4 position Jakiro with the Sand King, run an aggro dual lane, pressure the Anti-Mage in lane, push down towers early?
That's definitely a cool approach. Yeah, it's like we just saw that as well from LGD. It worked out really well for them. Maybe EG takes a page out of their book. It definitely fits. It gives them more type of pressure into that laning phase. The Razor ban, just because it's a horrible matchup for TA in the mid lane, and it's great versus Lifestealer through all the stages of the game. So
makes a lot of sense.
Makes a lot of sense for them to get rid of that one. Not really want to put themselves on the back foot in the laning phase.
Rubik, Earth Spirit, those are the controlling heroes that we're looking at that are left. Lion. Oh, okay. Well, that was an obvious one.
I guess that's a pretty obvious one.
The double disable hero.
Disable.
Well, you mean you said Cap? You said you were fishing for disables. You get double.
Yeah. Faces does have last pick, so they get to choose whatever they want. The Invokers is still in the pool as well.
Yeah, that's
Another one that's good against the TA. Good at creating some space. It will be Magnus, though. Hello.
Okay.
Think
really
of the
like
wombo
this.
combo position of potentials. That's
I'm
amazing.
getting really. It seems like you guys are actually feel like really good about Faceless Draft here.
I mean, if it works, it works amazingly well. Just the question is, can they make it work?
I mean, we said 70-30. If we were feeling 70-30, but that draft does give us some hope if everything correlates for
Yes.
Faceless.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it
definitely.
absolutely does.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, guys. The draft done, and our casters are perfectly ready. It's going to be LD and Purge to guide you through the action here, as it's time to see if EG can recover after the surprising loss versus Complexity.
Always ready. Always ready indeed, Alex. And here we are. Kevin, Magnus, behold the horn. What do you think? Are you feeling it?
I mean, it definitely has a lot of great potential. Magnus is going to amplify everything that Black does in terms of farm. So if Faceless can try to keep equal and get into this stagnant mid game, it's definitely going to give them a lot of advantage.
All right, well, let's find out if they're able to stall, let Black get his farm. He had that look of pure excitement, pick me anti-mage, pick me anti-mage. And I know what he was saying because I sat with him at TI3 after his team got eliminated, and every game was the perfect anti-mage game. So,
Dude, I sat with him on a Manila Major panel, and he said anti-mage every single draft. I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure they just picked the anti-mage to shut him up, if nothing else.
It happened eventually, I think, but
he certainly does love the hero. So, obviously, with this pick, you've got Fatal Bonds, RP, a melee DPS in the anti-mage that can do a lot of work. And some good kind of crowd control and follow-up from the Nyx SS and the Undying. Their team fight is sick. But for me, the question is, A, will they get the time? And B, will they get the farm that they need to be able to execute that?
yeah, I don't know if you caught the last series that Faceless played, but they kept getting into these 10 to 12 minute marks. That was not Black.
That was definitely not Black.
That was Monkeys Forever, actually. What was I saying? Talking about 10 minute. They would get to about the 10-minute mark, and they would always be very behind in farm on their 3 cores. It would be 2 cores way out ahead on the enemy team, and they would be 1,000, 2,000 net worth behind on all of their heroes. So there's clearly a laning problem going on. It's not necessarily individual skill. Could be how are they efficient during their rotations to put more pressure on the enemy team. And
this was where they really excelled. If for anyone who watched the Summit 6 online qualifiers, how Faceless performed in other online events leading into that, they would get the Undying, they would get the Warlock, and they would just crush the lanes with these 2 heroes. They were probably 2 of their most preferred. The Nyx for Ice 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 was, I would say, his most successful hero over the last 2 months. Overall, obviously, he plays a great Timbersaw. He's got a deep hero pool, but this was the hero they turned to the most. So if anything is their bread and butter, win the lanes and snowball from there, it is this Undying Nyx duo with a Warlock to support the safe lane. So
yeah, that's gonna be
to me,
really
it's
important.
the dream scenario for them.
Yeah, in all the other games, they first picked Ogre, and I think that's a bit of a mistake. I think Warlock's the better hero for doing a very similar thing, maybe not as good at mid-pressuring, but provides a lot to your lane, and then it can transition into team fights, something where Ogre falls a little bit more flat. So I think this method is a lot better.
All right, well, let's see how it works out. On the other side, you have EG, a lot of mobility, a lot of ways to interrupt combos here, whether there's a relocate out on a hero who does get RP'd, Burrow Strike, as well as the Lions' multitude of disables. These could prove to be a thorn on the side of Faceless if they have a good start in there. They're going to put Universe on the offlane Sand King, but he's going to have some help here. Zai will be dual laning with him. I imagine we'll see Crit head towards bottom to help Arteezy a bit. That will leave the TA in mid. So thoughts on the way EG is setting up these lanes, and how do you feel Faceless is going to match up against
I like the IO dual lane. I feel like Warlock is going to match up against that really well, though. On the bright side, there isn't that much harass coming against AM. It'll be things like Caustic Finale. It's definitely worth it to get an early point in his magic resistance skill. And that coupled with Warlock healing, I think he's going to be okay there. In the mid lane, I feel like Sumail's easily going to outplay Jabs here. Just hero matchup looks pretty good. He's very unlikely to die unless he gets the skewer into tower. So as a whole, EG's looking pretty good for 2 of those lanes, I feel. And then in the safe lane, Lifestealer plus a Lion, that's going to be the weaker one, I think, especially if Undying spends a lot of time down there.
Arteezy, he's already skilled Feast, so they know they can bully him a bit. No Rage to get out of a potential Impale. But yeah, you can see Sumail. I think every lane I've seen him in so far this event, he's done really well. Even lanes where he looks slightly disadvantaged or doesn't get help. I mean, he is known as the king of mid when it comes to just individual mechanics and dominating lanes early, though. As I say that, I'm probably going to jinx him. We'll get skewered into the tower and die. that.
Yeah, it's always something that you got to worry about, and maybe something that happened in the last series as well. A team that they're expecting to beat, are they going to play at full skill potential? So he's going to fish for it occasionally. Even if he misses those, he's got a 30-second cooldown, doesn't cost him that much mana. He's just going to try to be competitive using Empower and get as many last hits. And right now he's doing a little bit worse, but still doing semi-okay.
I like the early point in Empower. I have even seen a mag or two max this over the Shockwave, but Shockwave's a pretty damn good nuke, so
yeah, it really is.
Would be surprised if Jabs went all in there.
And another reason it's super important is because they don't have the best skills to combo with Fatal Bonds. There's nothing really easy like Starstorm hits 5 heroes, or Shockwave is maybe the best version of that they have in their lineup just because of Anti-Mage. Although AM ulti, that could be really good.
Yeah, like later on, but the AM ulti is not all that scary at level 1. Only 0.6 damage per point of mana missing, and the mana pools are going to be a lot lower. So
yeah.
Black getting harassed quite a bit here top, is still CSing well though, and has the Warlock to sustain him. They are going to move XY back down to crit. They could try to pressure this Lion a little bit.
That's definitely a great thing to pressure, and one reason that Lion just doesn't get picked very much is just because he's definitely very greedy. He doesn't contribute as much to the laning stage as a lot of other heroes do. Like, he got decayed there, he's down to 460 HP, normally he'd be around 500. If this was an Ogre, he'd be at 600 base, or if it was a Warlock, he'd be at 600 base. It's all this advantage that you get just from being level 1, and Lion just doesn't have that, so this is going to be a tough lane for him to not die in.
Oh, they lob out the Impale on the creep wave here. I thought Ice might try to have a go at him. I would like to see like some boots, maybe an Oov. I feel like they could really run crit down with that. But for now, just possible. Content to harass.
I think they're slightly lacking on damage is the only thing. XY is going to be doing more damage than the Undying will. He's mostly just going to be trading hits with Lion, trying to keep the focus on him instead. So that Ice can farm, because normally we don't even see a Nyx Assassin get this many last hits. He's up to 12 already. That's a really good start. Very similar to what Sand King's doing, slightly better, but Sand King always does better.
And EG really starting to ramp up the aggression in these lanes. You can see 4 CS on the line, and then all 3 cores topping the CS chart. So the early lanes looking good, with Mag not able to do much to shut down TA in a 1v1. You wouldn't expect that. And then, of course, I guess the big surprise, Arteezy having a really good time bottom. Despite being up against the Undying, they're not able to pressure him.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. I guess he's pretty good at trading against an Undying. Even if he does get his HP lower, he's always going to lifesteal when he hits. So he's got a good spot right now. It's really going to come down to the rotations for Faceless. If this path continues where they're getting outlaned a little, it might be a small amount, but if EG is able to use heroes like IO and Lion to rotate around the map and secure kills, then Faceless is going to get really behind, especially if the pressure on the AM continues. Speaking
of the IO, Zai heads towards the top rune. Universe being left alone, but not a fun lane for Anti-Mage, though he is CSing. Has the Rain of Health. He's gotten through that really rough part of the lane where you've limited regen. But constantly under Caustic Harass. It is a level 2 Caustic, Universe leveling it up. So the skewer back mid, though. Jabs finding Opion Sumail, not quite in tower range.
Kind of like the Illusion Rune here, just because it breaks his shield instantly. Yeah, easy harass. But I'm sure Sumail's doing fine. He's already at 30 CS. Definitely the top leader. Jab's having trouble being competitive with only 18 last hits on himself now. He's going to purchase boots up, and just looks like a bottle refill rotation here by XY.
I mean, given the way the lanes are going, are there any adjustments you want to see out of Faceless? They're not really shutting down the lifestealer. Their AM's doing well, but he's not free farming. TA is free farming. Should they be making moves?
I don't know if it's too easy to do that is the problem. A Warlock rotation could be good since it breaks Refraction, but I think it's much more likely that they just do what they're doing until Ice hits 6, and that's when the ganks have to start working.
Well, he is getting good levels here. Already almost level 5 in the bottom lane. Now he's been left alone. He did opt for the Oov.
Okay.
So they have a little more chasing power, though. Not so much against Arteezy with the completed phase boots. And it's actually EG. They're going to move first. Zai is TP'd in. And they're going to make a go on Ice. There's the open wounds to start. Rage to follow,
Great
mauling
stun.
him, but not dead just yet. Healed up by the Undying. Kept alive. They turned back for the Undying, but he's stolen a lot of strength. Pretty damn tanky. Another decay. Connecting only on Zai. Not enough. And EG will get the first blood.
It was really well done by both teams there. That was the right person to stun for Ice because the last next disable was coming from crit. And I think the Undying played that well also, healing up Ice, but they spread out at the last moment when Undying got a bit low and he wasn't able to decay multiple heroes. So
and that was really good by EG just oh, speaking of nice spreads, EG just forcing Ice to split the wickets here. He goes for the 2-hero Impale, he gets nothing. They might be able to run him down with Tether move speed. Nyx has a lot of regen, but is it going to be enough? 2 more auto attacks. They get the kill. All of that set up by a dodge. Now crit on Zai. They'll spread and split again. Shockwave off the mark. The tether out from Zai. Uses the Fog of War in the Roshan pit and gets away. Easy escape. EG supports styling on Faceless.
That was so well done by Zai. I didn't even think, I thought he was just giving up. He thought he was going to go for a Roche hit or something, but instead they spread out. They don't get hit by the double AoE, and he gets the tether out last second.
Well, that's just a pure outplay, honestly.
Yeah, genuinely is. I really felt like Undyne was going to get that one. So early roam from him. He's got 0 last hits. He does have some good lane impact. I think he's been doing a good job, but you know, getting a kill occasionally, especially against those two supports, the IO and the Lion, it's quite easy to kill at least one of them as an Undyne, but those guys have just been playing so safe.
Already, Sumail starting to farm the Ancients very early to grab the Blightstone. We'll be working towards that Deso eventually. And they might even give this lane to a support. We'll have to see, though. For now, mid is shoving in. We'll have to see if he just continues farming Ancients. Looks like he will. So he's missing a couple CS in lane. But meanwhile, EG perhaps masking the real move. It's a 3-hero rotation top. Already crit getting active. This reminds me a lot of how MMY used to play Lion, where he would move a lot earlier than expected, known as kind of a weaker laner, but he wouldn't really play in the lane. He would just constantly look to gank, and that's what we're seeing now from Crit.
And that's why this is so smart, because Black's not going to expect it here. Here's the first stun. They're going to have a follow-up.
There's the Impale, well comboed, the Hex to boot, and Black still unable to blink out, but he will get out in the end. Vanguard first.
Yeah, 100%. That guy was like 200% dead if it wasn't for the Vanguard, but he knew what was going to happen. He knows that if he gets killed a little bit too much early, he's going to lose this game, because he has to be the one to carry. So with the Vanguard pickup, yes, slower Battle Fury, but now he's not dead right now, and he's still last hitting.
I was like, man, this AM is awful tanky.
Yeah, me too. I was so surprised. I was so dead. But Epicenter ends. He's still got 30% HP, and he gets out. It's a great choice there.
Also gives a bit of extra room here to Ice bottom. So the level 6 that you mentioned he needs to start moving with. Coming soon. Jabs did go for the second point in Empower previously, but now is maxing out the Shockwave. No RP yet. I suppose not all that useful until you have a way to set it up.
I'm sure he would love it right now. Would give him a pretty easy kill. Oh, he gets it. He's been saving the point.
Yeah, skewer back, grabs crit, and there you go. Lion on the board.
Okay. A little tricky play there by Jabs. Really nice that he got an invis. A little unlucky there for crit, but you know, it's only a level 4 support, so I think it's going to give him some gold, but it won't really accelerate Magnus super hard.
Yeah, like you said, really good patience to hold that last skill point right as he clips 7. Meanwhile, bottom, Arteezy getting active on Ice. Won't be able to kill him, but just threatens him, trying to force a TP, perhaps.
Yeah, he could have even wanded and gone invis with his ult, but that would have been really bad for him since he does want to use that for ganking pretty soon. So he's going to grab this last creep wave, possibly hit 7, and I expect he'll go back to base after if he doesn't die here.
Oh, Zai looking for it, giving him those little balls of light. Not going to continue to pursue any further, but constant pressure on the Nyx. Ice. Gonna have to go home now and heal up.
We'll see where his first gank comes, and how EG reacts to this is really important. This is maybe one reason why we've seen Sumail just doing Ancients this whole time, up to 84 CS now. If he just farms in places that Faceless isn't really expecting him to be, then his chances of getting ganked there are a little bit lower.
He's already level 11 at 9.5 minutes, mind you.
That's actually incredible.
That's
and
absurd.
84 CS from Ancients,
Jabs is 8 for
good.
comparison.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
But
and on top of that now, Crit is going to be able to take over mid if he wants. They will make a move here. Hex to start, Blink reveal, and now the tether follow-up. They slaughter the mag. Horn down. And at the 10-minute mark, going to hunt for a rune.
That was a really cool play. Normally, for a couple reasons. Like you said, Crit getting experience in the mid lane, so you expect him to be there. Him standing around doesn't really surprise you. But the fact that Sumail not only is farming this stupidly fast, but he also went Blink first instead of Deso, completely enables that gank, whereas if he goes Deso first, it would have been a lot harder to secure it. So a little bit of a change-up gives him a great kill on the mid-hero.
And he's a great vehicle for Lifestealer because he's so far ahead, he can actually like dive bomb in and probably survive Dire with a money scan, though, as little scout. 3 heroes ganking top. Black maybe would have died, but now he should live, though. Gotta stay out of Burrow strike range because they have the gap closed as Universe threatens to come in. Black immediately backs away. Instead, though, Ice going to reveal that. They drop a sentry, stays out of sentry range, pokes his way in, worming around. EG threatening that DD rune about to expire on Sumail, though.
Yeah, Ice is
EG
so good.
will back off.
He could definitely do a spike Carapace reflect on the TA, and if he does that and stuns afterwards with a rock, they could definitely kill the TA, so safe that they didn't fight that one.
Still no relocate for Zai, so no way to disengage there.
Okay, so first rotation from Ice doesn't really do that much, but it does protect Black, which is still very important. And That's what FACELESS should be doing a lot this game. Make sure that he gets farm, that he doesn't get ganked, that even though he did buy a Vanguard, that he's still going to transition rapidly into a good farming item.
I'm going to grab the treads now, I imagine. Yeah, treads complete. And there will be an Impale on the top lane, blinking onto Universe. They're going to engage aggressively onto the Sand Cane, but he tries to run away. Good timing on the Carapace there. Mana Void committed. He stops to hit creeps, and the burn damage from Nuts will finish him off.
That was a good move. The Mana Void looked really bad, but they just needed a bit more damage to actually push him over the edge. So big kill there.
They have relocate now, though. Do we see EG try and hold this tower?
Oh, they can't fight this, surely. I mean, they've still got Golem here. I don't think it'll be safe. And Ice Ice is Invis, so if there's a relocate and he gets a double stun off, the fight's over. Because they'll have Fatal Bonds and an Infernal Golem on top of that.
I guess the good news for EG is FACELESS. They don't really push all that fast.
Yeah, that's true.
So Magnus still working towards his blink.
He was so close earlier, too, when he got ganked. I think he had like 1,600 gold. Now he decided, well, whatever. Not going to get the fast blink. Let's buy Arcanes.
Yeah, gets the Arcanes, and then I imagine still going to grab the blink, as you can't really count on Nyx to start fights, and Warlock as a support may end up dying before he's able to get in a good position. So overall, Kevin, it's been a bit back and forth, but AM being slowed down in terms of farm. EG support's getting a lot as we see a move on the mid lane. Jabs, the blink chase. He has to RP to try and survive this one, bottling up. A big commitment just to live there. Was it worth it?
Man, Sumail he just plays mid like it's an art form. The way that he approached that, let the creeps get low. He didn't deny it instantly. He wanted to bait him in. And because that happened, he got like 2 to 3 hits on Magnus he wouldn't have had otherwise. And it allowed him to blink to pursue, force the RP defensively. And he didn't get the kill, but he was very, very close. He did it in a creative way. And now Magnus can't gank. So cool.
And now they're going to start making moves. They head towards the bottom. EG, as the creeps arrive, they begin to dive, and they will find the setup here on XY with the Hex initiation, but Crit getting turned on rather rapidly. They try to keep him alive with the overcharge. Rotation coming in, though. Crit bit off more than he could chew. He'll go down. Now Black turning back for Zai. Does have the Mana Void available, but Black not going to give chase. He'll let him go. Didn't have a whole lot of mana to blow him up with.
That was a really good turn there. They do get a ward down while they attempt that gank at least, so
there's some Golem ready. I guess EG might want to force this thing, and Arteezy threatening to run in.
It's difficult to go on lifesteal like this if he just presses his rage in time. Could be late. He could land this. They're little mind games here. Okay, not going to get it.
Not to mention there's also a relocate save, so
that's true.
Potentially could be a completely wasted rock.
Definitely not something you want to do. Nuts has been doing a great job of holding it. Just waiting for the right moment. Can't waste it. And with Magnus rotating now, Black's got a free battlefield.
They are going to drop that rock, though. Moving on to Arteezy. He's raged currently on an island as the Io had run away, but he just infested the siege creep.
It's a great choice. So he's hidden in here. They can't actually get him out of this unless Arteezy chooses to take control and run away, or it gets killed by creeps. So
unfortunately, it's at the back of the wave, so it's going to take a while. EG could reset around this.
Maybe he comes out, but he's already
just having a snooze. Oh, Deso's up now. This could be bad if they stick around.
I think they're just going to trade, though. I mean, top tier 1 is pretty much just dying to creeps alone. Sumail can finish that off. And
but they also got mid, so this is going to be a 2-for-1 tower trade, and they committed the rock.
Oh, Ice Ice outplaying him. There's no follow-ups, though. Oh, that was so sick.
Was it an outplay, though?
Kind of. Radiant used Scan to check to see if anybody was still there because he was scared, right?
Yeah.
And then he anticipated the pop-out, so he popped Spike Carapace so that the infest damage stunned him and he could get the follow-up.
Yeah, but there's no way he's killing him solo.
You are completely right, but it was a super sick outplay.
That's just Ice showing how good he is.
Yeah.
But
for no reason, basically. Just to put fear in him.
Yeah, just purely mind games. But look at Black. Does look like he's skipping the Battle Fury entirely, Kevin. He goes Yasha. Now he does have Mag, so he can somewhat still farm quickly here with the Empower.
The problem is that Magnus becomes a bit of a courier system where he's like, oh, that 20-second duration skill is down for you. Well, I'm going to run across the whole map just to give you Empower so you can farm better.
Maybe disassemble your Arcane Boots, rush the BOTs, so you can just follow the AM around more easily.
Yeah, it's a glorified Alchemist or something like that. He's going to get grabbed, though.
They're going to find him.
Low.
Big Deso reveal by Sumail. Black goes splat. And EG find the pick-off they need.
Wow, he died so fast. They're going to still take the fight, though, surprisingly.
Trying to, anyway. Ice moving in, but he gets clipped by a burrow. Sumail chunking down Nuts, who doesn't yet have his access to his ultimate. 50 seconds ago, clipped by a stun, will go down. Beautiful RP, but where's the follow-up damage? They simply don't have it. Arteezy turns around, kills off the zombie man, now chasing onto the Nyx's ass, and there's the burrow from Universe, and the cleanup crews in town. 4 fall, and they commit the RP. and they still lose the fight.
Their lineup is so strong together here. With Templar Assassin doing -7 armor with Deso and -8 with Meld. That on top of what Lifestealer already has, and he didn't even have to get minus armor himself. So it's like he has all these free items just from fighting with the Templar Assassin. It's just amazing fight. And just really shows Anti-Mage is quite weak against physical damage, even with a Vanguard.
And that is the big downside to this build is, one way to play the AM in this situation is to try to play the greedy route, right? Split push, avoid fights. But if he tries to fight head on, seems he can't win. So now he's neutered his own farm curve. In order to try and survive and take fights, but at the same time, still can't really take them. Now, if they have the Golem, and they have Fatal Bonds, and they land the RP, and there's a good Mana Void, like if all of that is perfect, maybe. But are they going to find that kind of a fight is really the question.
Yeah, it was honestly just perfect setup by them. They got to start the fight on the AM, and then they saw the Nyx Assassin. The RP was beautiful, but by the time the RP came through, the Tombstone fell, so they didn't even at least get extra zombies out of it. It just not a good fight for Faceless. I think they regret going in there.
And RP is a pretty long cooldown. 40 seconds still until it's ready. So Golem up, but RP down. Faceless starting to follow the AM around the map, but you compare that to EG, and they are spreading a lot more. Arteezy push out the top lane. TA just farming mid, now going to clear the enemy woods, dropping down traps. They are playing a game that they know how to play very well. We saw that in their previous series against Complexity. If you give them room, they love to play the economy game down the stretch in the mid game, build up like an hopefully insurmountable lead before they go for the big objectives, and already about a 8-9k gold lead, similar on experience.
So 2k gold at least for Anti-Mage, and he's taking the tier 2. They're going to skewer Zype. Oh my god, did he die fast.
Burrow Strike.
That's Templar Assassin, man.
Yeah, and then Sumail gets the job done. Already the Dragonlance complete.
He's pretty farmed. And that was all from amazing last hitting in the mid lane.
When TA is this far ahead of an Anti-Mage and you've picked up Magnus, you've maxed in power pretty early, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, do they even have late game at this point?
I mean, it's not looking amazing, that's for sure. Anti-Mage is matching the same farm as Lifestealer, but TA is a whole like 40-50% ahead of that. And AM doesn't have his typical farm items. Like when Mag is dead, look at him farming creeps. It's so bad. Takes like 5 hits to kill one creep. Normally it's like 6-7 hits and you kill the whole wave.
I can just imagine how much Black must have been gritting his teeth to build a Vanguard and a Yasha on Anti-Mage.
Well, I'm sure he was smiling the first time he got ganked, but
yeah.
The second time, it's like, oh, no problem. Oh,
God.
Wait.
So this could be the big timing for them. They have the Manta now. Other problem is, like, who is the great Mana Void target here? Lion only 550 mana. Io up at 780. There's like a TA is the best target with 900, or 800, but you're not realistically going to remove all that mana in most fights.
Yeah, absolutely true.
So there's no Storm Spirit, there's no Tinker, there's like no ticking time bomb on EG, it seems.
And they got to start taking fights, but I think EG is just going to avoid it. I mean, there's a Magnus, and there's a Warlock, and there's an Undying. Those are 3 great team fight heroes. If EG just doesn't want to fight, they don't have to. Spread out your heroes. They're all pretty survivable, at least with the TA and the Lifestealer. They can push the lanes, and then the rest of the heroes on the map will just avoid fights or try to pop smokes.
Oh, they walk right past the TA trap. I think Black just got spotted. Going to go back to farming. But again, look at the spread from EG. Arteezy pushing out the mid lane. Universe was just farming the jungle. They were pushing bottom with Sumail, so they're spreading a little bit. But Faceless, smoke gank down the drain, not getting to use those big team fight ultimates and whiffing on their ganks.
I love where Sumail's putting all his Psionic traps. It's also all very common farm places for a lot of Faceless side heroes. Their Ancients, Roshan Pit, the first large camp close to their base, all places that you would farm if you were a little scared or wanted to farm on your side of the map. So just using that information, knowing where Black is, they'll be better at countering split push, knowing when their opponents are setting up for it, or knowing where the rest of the heroes might be. It's just allowing them to take this information and then avoid fights like they want to anyways.
I mean, I'm just wondering at what point Faceless are able to take that fight, because you've got an Assault Cuirass nearly complete for Arteezy, Desolator almost done for Sumail, or sorry, not Desolator, the Daedalus almost done for Sumail.
Oh, really? Oh, God.
Crystal is already coming out, so well underway to that. And meanwhile, Epicenter in the mid lane as Arteezy engages. They drop the rock, but already too late. Now the relocate arrives. EG, all of a sudden, you thought they wanted to farm. Well, you were wrong, sir. 4 down. Golem about to drop as well. The lone survivor A sad man who hates magic.
Wow, that fight looked so one-sided. The Blink Epicenter started things off very well, and then the relocate in the perfect position, just one-shotting every hero on the way. And the best part is that Io goes straight back to the top lane just to keep pushing the wave and getting farm. He's 3-0-8, by the way. It's a little ball of light. I don't know how that happens, but I think he could carry at this point.
Well, FACELESS, not only did they lose the fight, but they blew the golem. So now you're looking at over 2 minutes, even now, where there's no hope of them taking that team fight.
Yeah, they just didn't farm nearly as well. This is just really one of the things that Sumail's amazing at. He always gets at least as much farm as his opponent, oftentimes more, and this was an extreme example of it. And he turned it into ganks, and he turned it into map pressure. Whereas on Magnus's side, I feel like all we really saw out of him was some empower on his anti-mage, and other than that, we saw some semi-unsuccessful ganks that's put him in this bad spot.
And we saw this style of play, I think most notably, if you go back to Team Secret, at like the Shanghai Major, where they would do it with Ember, they would run, I think it was Misery playing offlane for them at the time, and Puppy even said in an interview, like, yeah, we just picked Magnus for empower. Like, the rest is just a bonus. If you hit a good RP, if you hit the skewer, that's okay if it's your offlaner, but when you're giving him more farm priority in the mid lane, and then on top of that, Anti-Mage isn't going Battle Fury build, you can't really rely on him to necessarily be that solo carry unless you find the team fights.
So can Ice Ice find Arteezy? Looks like they're going to pass a little bit. Nighttime vision, not good enough here. It's a very close attempt. They could have interrupted this with an RP, but couldn't pass the creep wave to find him. So that would have been pretty big there.
Would have been, could have been, but not. Kind of the story for FACELESS here.
And any TPs in the mid lane now. Infested on the Sand King. They're ready to take a fight.
They do finally have a blink on the Nyx. Maybe this could be the start of something promising, but that's only if Universe doesn't get the first jump, and he's got the blink. The Force as well.
Ooh, they used Manta mid, actually. Trying to stun Sumail, that would have been a big pick, but still has Aegis. Even if he goes down, they'd have to do that twice.
Daedalus complete. Look at these AM illusions. They're 3 shots for him, and that's without the crits.
I've never seen them so worthless looking, but they do not look strong right now.
Yeah,
Okay.
Black lucky for the uphill miss there.
I was going to say, it's like, well, he has evasion already.
Oh, there used to be a tower here. Blink skewer off the mark. Nice 4-step, but Universe just scooting the Templar away. And now back to the melee racks. Where's the team fight? There's the Impale to start it off. Ice, Ice, Ice. He finds 2, but the counter burrow is there. And immediately Black's going to drop. Still Sumail, very healthy. Has the Aegis to boot. They shred up the Undying. Zombie down. EG just cruising. FACELESS looking absolutely lost. They don't have their carry. Yeah, they've got the double ultimate. No mana for it now as Jabs will lob out another shockwave, and that's a lane of racks.
Yeah, I think
straight on for more kills.
Saved by the little, what's it called again? The buildings?
The little buildings.
The
The
one with
huts.
the dudes on it, yeah.
Effigies.
He tanked an attack there. Did you see that? Saved his life. That's why they're there, guys.
That's their secret purpose. Ice Frog's an EG fan.
They're just so behind you. The only way that initiation worked is if they also RP'd the backline at the same time, because instantly the Burrow Strike came from Sand King to stop the chain damage on Sumail and kept his Aegis alive.
I'm still checking these heroes. Like, no one even has 1,000 mana pool, let alone that much missing.
The issue is they have to try.
Right.
That's all they can do. And
if EG's smart, they just, like, the Lifestealer hits buildings, TA's out in front, and then way behind them are the 3 supports. So how do you get that dream RP, that dream
They didn't even
golem?
want to mess around with 2 people. They've been using TA the whole time to hit it, just because with Hurricane Pike, his attack range is actually fairly normal, 520. That's almost a regular ranged hero. So he gets to hit it. He's got the Aegis. He's got refraction, that is. And eventually all the barracks fall just because he does so much damage.
Oh, it's not looking great for FACELESS, Kevin. Now a 25,000 gold deficit, 20,000 experience, and I mean, again, their team fight is amazing, but AM as a carry, you mentioned it, he's not known for dealing well with heavy physical DPS in the late game. Normally, if he has an edge, it's because like he can just chain bash someone with an Abyssal, but FACELESS, well, that Duck going to make a move here, and Sumail blinks right into them. He sees XY, he shreds him immediately. This is the perfect setup on him. Zai doesn't actually have to relocate, but Sumail survives. He has no mana left to burn. He's still chunking them down, tanking through the M illusions, kills off the Tombstone, not even scratched, and this is only life number 1. They've already lost 3. G frickin' G. The Sumail train, it has no brakes.
It is. Man, that was just a really one-sided game. FACELESS looking completely outmatched here.
I mean, that's just a day at the office for EG. Look at them. They mean business.
I mean, that's definitely what we expected out of EG coming into the tournament, but they haven't performed the same way in their first series. I honestly, I feel like this is more of a sign of FACELESS as a team than it is even as much about EG as a team. FACELESS looks pretty lost. I feel like their first series of today, they got outdrafted heavily in at least one of the games, and this game was kind of reminiscent of that. They had a strategy idea. They tried to do it. It sort of worked for a little bit, and then it just completely fell flat, and they were ultra behind.
And to you, is that's mainly just the draft was very difficult to execute, or do you think they were like they could have played it differently and it could have gone better?
They could have played it differently. I think this is becoming more of a what they need to get out of their heroes thing. Like, they got no kills out of their aggro duel lane. Yeah, got Ice some levels, but then his levels didn't get him anything. So it's like all of a sudden your aggro duel lane doesn't work either. Just a lot going wrong there.
Alex, I got to ask you, what's wrong in FACELESS land?
I mean, that's an intriguing question, but also what's going on in EG land? They just won a game very convincingly, and they look downtrodden. I mean, we have Shiva, the psychological breakdown.
Yep,
you were
that's
saying
me.
that they do look a bit grumpy.
They still have maybe the other loss in their minds.
What do you reckon, LD? What do you reckon, Purge?
I think they take it pretty personally when they lose to complexity. And, if they if they saw Swindles popping off, I don't think they like that very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just feeling like this was just they should have done this earlier.
They're probably like, this is what should have happened last series, guys, and they were still salty about it. Probably.
Yeah, okay. There was still some salt in the EG room, but you know what they say, salt does make things taste a little better, and hopefully things will get better for EG. I mean, what was that, 23, 25 minutes? Does it just walk on through? Cap, this was, well, I don't want to say another day in the office, but this was what we did, kind of the picture we painted in the pre-match, right? You said
Yes.
FACELESS. There was a lot of things that had to go right, and the main thing you highlighted to me, in fact, alongside Fogged, was Ice, win condition, had to go off, didn't get it.
Yeah, I think that we sort of set the table of XY and Ice with their aggro dual lane need to be able to accomplish a lot. But we saw with the rotation from Zai coming in, they timed that very well, and they were able to get the early first blood on XY. And that happens. Like, you already had phase boots on the Lifestealer at that point, but it just makes it so much harder because Lifestealer is a strong laning core. So it was going to be difficult from the get-go for XY and for Ice to put pressure on that lane. And I don't know, it's just like they couldn't really get started.
And then that Magnus had a lot of pressure to making a lot happen with his RP, and he got like this one is an amazing RP, but at that point there it's already too late. At some point he had an invis rune we just saw earlier that he had, and he walked mid and he had some backup, and he was just very antsy to make sure that he actually used that RP at that time without waiting for a better opportunity, just maybe slightly nervous even going up against EG here, but
I mean,
it didn't click.
What we asked before as well, we were talking about Sumail and his prowess in the mid lane, Fogged, and you were singing his praises throughout that 25-minute game. Brief stint, but still big stuff on TA.
He decimated, honestly,
Nice.
decimated Jabs,
Yeah.
and he just had like it almost looked like he made TA look imbalanced, kind of in a way. Like, he was completely free farmed, they just basically like one-shotting, two-shotting heroes all over the place just after the great start he had. They gave him the tools that he needed to. They focused on pressuring the other two lanes, so there was no rotations to kind of pressure him at all there, and he just did what he needed to do. He farmed as much as possible, stacked up he had a couple ancient stacks as well, went to the jungle, got like a 9-minute blink dagger, and then just snowballed out of control after that.
Yeah, I think one of the things is the fact that the Zai universe lane, to contrast, right, the aggro dual lanes
Sure.
and the way those had to succeed for both teams is that combination of Zai and universe did very well at being able to pressure the anti-mage and get a lot of farm for universe. And that's the thing. This whole entire FACELESS lineup falls apart if they're not the ones initiating first, right? If they don't go in and get the RP and lay down the tombstone and follow up with the Warlock Golem, then their lineup just really doesn't work for those team fights. They have to be the ones initiating, but it's the thing is they got a really fast blink dagger on universe. He set the pace.
And indeed, yeah, alongside Sumail, if you bring this up, we were talking about him rolling in the Benjamins, and indeed he was 885 GPM, making mad dollars. That's how I speak now.
Making mad dollars. You're
Mad
American.
Skrilla? Is that what they say? What do you
Mad's
call
an
it?
American thing, right? Saying mad.
Oh, that's mad good.
Mad good.
That makes no sense to me.
Does not.
Maybe that's why Arteezy was not looking too happy. It's like Sumail stole his thunder. I mean, Arteezy has a great score as well, and he just wasn't.
If I was mid TA, I would have done even better.
He used to be the prodigy, and now
Now Sumail's stealing
he's
it.
taken over, and I mean, he played an amazing Lifestealer, as in Arteezy played an amazing Lifestealer.
Sure.
He just the game wasn't long enough for him to be as flashy as Sumail was on his TA. That's all. Maybe he just wanted the game to be a little bit longer.
Now, you did touch on it before, but I want to come back to the thing that we had like a kind of a group, as Magnus was locked in. Jabs,
Yeah.
what do we think? I mean, did he do the best of a bad situation, or not too happy with that draft?
There's a lot of pressure because, like Cap just said, he is the one to have to make the plays. Like they
All of
are
that.
the ones to have to make the first movements, and then AG beats them to it. And by that time, the anti-mage's already not farmed. I'm not sure. Maybe it was slightly nerves. We know Jabs is a new player, but I don't know. Fog, do you think that would have any impact from your opinion?
I definitely think so too. It's you're putting you're putting a mag on him, and they're playing single core anti-mage versus a dual core. So it's like you have to come out from the laning phase ahead, and they came out super behind in the laning phase. And like Cap's saying, they need to be getting the jumps, and it's just impossible for him to really do that job. So he was definitely feeling super pressured, and that can definitely hurt when you're. Like you also said, he transitioned from support to mid, so that's probably the hardest transition to make.
I mean, less than half a year ago. That is a big transition.
Big change up. So he was probably feeling the pressure just because of the lineup in general too. So yeah, hard for him.
So recovering with his transition period. It's not, is it a transition like one of the hardest transitions we've seen? I mean, what's the most successful move from one role to another we've seen?
I think
or you go,
S4
Sheep.
to offlane. He went from mid to offlane.
S4 to offlane, I think Fear from carry to support, I think is another good example.
I think that's the best one.
I would agree with Yannis that mid is a very specialized role. I think the only role that has a similar kind of specialization is offlane. I think offlane players are just like a different masochistic breed, just because the offlane is a core position, but it's also the position that's probably going to get dumped on the most. So offlane players are just offlane players. That's what they are. They're just crazy people who like to go into the suicide lanes. Yeah, it's something like that. Something's wrong inside your head, and you're like, I like pain. I'm going to go against 2 or 3 heroes. Let's go.
Weren't you an offlane player?
Yeah, there's something wrong with me. I'm speaking from personal testimony
This is a
here, all right?
self-diagnosis.
I understand. I am not right in the head, okay?
I think another good comparison. This goes back quite long ago, but
Drop it.
Universe used to play support. Universe played the hard 5 back on EG and TI2 and everything, and then now he's playing the offlane. So
yeah, and
he
hard
transitioned
5s,
hardcore. He was like one of the top offlaners in that.
I think hard 5 is another position that you're like, unless you're a captain and you're like leading strategy and doing all these other things, right? If you're just playing hard 5 just to play hard 5, there's probably something wrong with you, you know?
Sure. I'm talking of something wrong with them. A lot of people on social media have been throwing questions at us. Let's see if they've got anything good for us.
Did you just insult the
entire
viewer base? Yeah?
the entire viewer base?
Okay,
Yeah, I
just
really
checking.
just blanket insults at this point.
Back to CSGO we go.
Which hero will have the highest win rate this major? Oh, he's given us proper categories as well. That's coming in from Blanc. Which hero will have the highest win rate this major?
Is this guy just trying to get his compendium prediction?
Pretty much, right?
He's
like
like 4
that's
games
minimum.
played
4
instead of
games.
5.
Well, he can't already. It's too late. You had to submit
I
it.
guess
already.
Yeah,
so.
you're too late with your predictions.
Well,
Which
I mean,
win rate this major?
is he asking for the ones that we put? I mean, I put Medusa.
Oh, you put Medusa?
I did. Just because
Wow.
when you
That's not
pick
a bad one.
when you
That's
pick
not a bad
Medusa, you're picking a strategy around it. And it's like a last pick Medusa, so it's
Okay.
like you're setting it up for that, and
Okay.
it's minimum 5 games, so there probably only will be like 5 or
Did
6
you do your
Medusa
fantasy?
games.
I did not, actually. I
You
didn't
didn't?
do
Okay.
any compendium or fantasy cards. But I would say that that idea is usually you want to be able to pick a core that is a bit specialized and is not picked more than like 10 times. Right?
Smarter.
You don't want
I
to...
mean, he's maybe picked more.
He's picked a little too much, right? Maybe. He's picked a lot though.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
You
slaughter.
think so? Yeah, but I think he wins most of his games.
He does win most of his games. That's actually not bad.
Razor, I think, is another good example of like
Razor.
a core that is picked to counter something, and he's usually very powerful within that
When it
lineup.
works,
and
yeah.
there's not going to be a whole lot of them, right? So I think if you're looking for those kind of heroes, that's typically what you're looking at.
Just pick heroes that Virtus Pro would play, and nobody else. Then you're good.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's
not a bad
That's
idea.
not a bad shout. First Pro, yeah, but they won so quickly that it did make it difficult for us to see too much. We only saw 4 games.
That's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
Dragon Knight, right? Dragon
Yeah.
Knight could be pretty good just
And
because of
OG's
VP.
been picking a lot of Dragon Knight as well. They've been doing good. So
Okay.
who knows?
Okay.
Maybe Dragon Knight.
With that said, I also want to, just before we do jump into draft, I've been really enjoying the answers we got out of this. Fox was the only one that answered it, but on this new panel, Cap Shiva,
Oh yeah.
I've been asking which hero ability do you take into real life if you can have
Oh,
one?
teleportation.
Everyone just does. That's okay.
I mean, it's the most obvious one.
but there's so much fun you can have. Teleportation on a 30-second cooldown does solve a lot of your problems.
Alex, these people have no imagination
Okay,
whatsoever.
use that brain. Use that brain of yours.
I can tell you, everyone's going to say, "Oh, teleportation! I can go anywhere in the world instantly.
Yeah.
I don't have to fly anymore."
Mhm.
That's laziness right there.
Boom.
You know what? They are not looking. They are not looking at. You know what? Teleportation? You're just going somewhere. You don't know where you're going. You don't see what's around. You don't know if you're going onto like you're just like go onto Google Maps and you're like, I'm gonna end up at this place right here, but you don't know what's there.
You know
Maybe
how
a truck is just about to come across,
how
which is
specific Google Maps
which is
can
why
be.
if a truck is about to hit me, you know what ability I'm gonna use? Time lapse.
Oh, and that's pretty swaggy
5
as
seconds
well.
back.
And if you say something silly.
Exactly.
You know, that's
Think
how
how
it
many
works.
situations in our job that works out great.
That would be
I could say
awesome.
the most heinous things right now on
Yeah.
camera. And it's
Maybe you
whoop,
already
whoop,
did.
whoop.
Maybe you
Yeah,
already
that
did.
would be
Maybe
cool.
I already did.
There you go.
Wow, I
not
like
a
this
bad one.
idea. Yeah.
How about
Here, let me try.
Did you just
Careful.
You just hear Cap going boop boop boop? Oh damn!
You can get a- you can
Wait,
get a
it's not
hand
working.
mic.
Cool down, guys.
Cool down.
I swear.
He's
I
been
thought I could
silent.
go back in time.
Sorry, Steve.